In the last few minutes, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced sweeping tariffs on goods imported into the United States.
Or as the Wall Street Journal dubbed, the dumbest trade war in history.
President, is there anything China, Canada, and Mexico can do tonight to forestall your implementation of tariffs tomorrow?
No.
Republicans point to this already and say, look, Trump's strong-arm tactics work.
Sir, your previous tariffs during your first administration cost Americans some $80 billion. Can you guarantee American families won't pay more?
I can't guarantee anything.
Your next car? It just got $6,400 more expensive. Not because of tech upgrades, not because of inflation. It's because of this. A 25% tariff just landed on nearly every car not made in the US, thanks to President Trump. But here's the twist. Even the most American truck on the lot, the Ford F-150, isn't fully American? Let's break this down. The F-150, it's assembled here in the US, but it's made of thousands of parts from over 24 countries. Alternator, Mexico. Half shafts, Canada. Tires, South Korea. Wheels, Mexico again. We're not building cars, we're assembling international shipments. Now here's where things stack up. Those Korean tires, Tariff. That Mexican alternator, Tariff. Canadian half shafts, Tariff. And for parts from Mexico and Canada, it's not just one tax, it's three. First, the auto tariff, then a country-specific tariff, and possibly a reciprocal or universal tariff on top. You might be thinking, wait, didn't we fix this with USMCA? Kind of. The White House says compliant parts stay tariff-free until there's a system to apply tariffs to non-US content. So that exemption? It's a delay, not a solution. So what happens when a tariff hits every part under your hood? You get a price spike for American buyers, a headache for automakers, and a supply chain that's about to snap. Next up, we'll show you why Trump's plan to just build it here might be impossible, and how a single car part could cross 7 borders before it's even installed. The Ford F-150, big, bold, the American truck. Except, it isn't. That Made in America badge? It's sitting on a machine built from parts made all over the world. So yeah, the Ford F-150 might be assembled in America, but it's built everywhere else. Canada handles the crankshaft and rod forgings for that beefy 5-liter V8. Mexico, it's where the 3.5-liter EcoBoost gets made, along with wiring harnesses, stampings, and more. China ships in infotainment systems, driver assist cameras, interior plastics. Japan ships in your ignition coils, fuel injectors, and HVAC components, the stuff that keeps your truck cool and your engine hot. Germany makes the O2 sensors, map sensors, and engine management electronics. South Korea? That's where the lithium-ion battery cells for the electric Lightning model are made. And of course, the US pulls it all together for final assembly. This isn't just international cooperation, it's global dependence. So why go through all this effort? Because it's cheaper, faster, and smarter. Mexico, great for drive systems. Canada, top-tier precision parts. South Korea, tires and electronics. No single country, including the US, can do it all efficiently. Here's the problem. Trump's tariffs just jammed a wrench in that entire system. And when you slap a 25% tax on every foreign piece, the whole machine starts grinding. This isn't just about a few foreign parts. It's about a system that touches every nut, bolt, and bearing in your car. Want to know how crazy this all gets? Next, we're diving into one single part, the transmission, that crosses the US border 7 times before it ends in the truck. So we know Trump slapped a 25% auto tariff on any car not made in the US. But here's the sneaky part. Even US-built cars are getting hit again. Because the parts, they're imported. And if those parts come from Mexico or Canada, they don't just get taxed once. They could get taxed 3 times. You might be thinking, wait, aren't Mexico and Canada part of a trade agreement with us? They are. But even with USMCA in place, parts from our closest partners can still get slapped with a general auto tariff, a Mexico-Canada specific tariff, and a potential reciprocal or universal tariff. Here's where things gets really murky. The White House says, if a part qualifies under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement, it stays tariff-free. But here's the catch. Only until they figure out how to apply tariffs to non-U.S. content. In other words, this is a pause, not a protection. So, what happens next? Automakers are caught in limbo. Do they redesign supply chains now? Or wait until the next trade ruling detonates the cost of doing business? Either way, it's a ticking time bomb for pricing, production, and profits. And if you think this is a mess, wait till we dive into one single car part, the transmission. A mechanical maze that crosses 7, that's right, 7, borders and triggers multiple tariffs before it even touches a car. This is not a simple hunk of metal. It's an automatic transmission, and it might be the most complicated thing in your car. Gears, springs, valves, shafts, seals, sensors, and all of them can come from completely different countries. This isn't just one unit, it's a global jigsaw puzzle. One supplier makes the torque converter. Another machines the clutch plates. The control module, built by someone else, somewhere else. And that's just a single component in a single truck. Multiply that by millions of cars, and you start to see how global this mess really is. So why not just buy American and call it a day? Because when it comes to transmissions, you don't skip steps. Every part is tested, validated, and safety certified with extreme precision. You can't just swap in a new supplier like you're changing Netflix passwords. It's expensive, it's slow, and when you rush it, people get hurt. Now imagine this process for every vehicle on the road. Ford, GM, Stellantis, Toyota, millions of transmissions, billions of parts, each one moving through a spider web of international trade routes. And now, all of them are being slowed, taxed, or threatened with disruption. So how tangled can this really get? Let's zoom in on a real-world example. Canadian manufacturer Linamar builds transmissions for U.S. vehicles. But here's the kicker. Before that part ever reaches a U.S. car lot, that single transmission crosses the border. Get this. 7. That's right, 7 times, before it's even installed. And each time it re-enters the U.S., tariff every single time. 3 of those crossings are into the United States. And under Trump's new tariff policy, every single one gets taxed. So why all the back and forth? Because auto manufacturing is built for just-in-time logistics. One facility might do gear assembly, another handles calibration. Then it's shipped for testing, final machining, and packaging. The border crossings aren't a bug in the system, they're the system. Now imagine that same border-hopping nightmare for every transmission going into millions of vehicles built in America. You're not just taxing parts, you're taxing the process. And when that process is this global, you're lighting tariffs like tripwires. So you're probably thinking, just build the whole thing in the US, right? Yeah, about that. Even if we moved the entire transmission factory here, we'd still be importing raw steel and aluminum, which means, guess what? Still taxed. All right, let's say we throw in the towel on globalization. Let's say we bring the entire transmission line back to the US. No more border hops, no more international parts. Problem solved, right? Not even close. Because here's the kicker. Even if you build the whole thing in America, you're still using imported steel and imported aluminum. And guess what? Those raw materials are hit with a 25% tariff too. So yeah, you can move the factory. You can hire the workers. You can slap a Made in the USA badge on every car. But underneath that shiny American exterior, you're still taxed before you ever turn on the assembly line. So now, the real question is, what does this actually cost us? According to Cox Automotive, it's about $6,400 more per car. No bells, no whistles, no upgrades, just pure cost. Here's the breakdown. $3,000 from Mexico-Canada tariffs, $3,000 from foreign parts tariffs, $400 just for the steel and aluminum. And that's before we even talk about reciprocal tariffs other countries might throw back at us. For the average American buyer, that's the difference between getting a car and needing to take out a longer loan, stretch a tighter budget, or settle for less vehicle. Now multiply that $6,000 hit across millions of vehicles. You're not just talking about a higher sticker price. You're talking about a total shift in demand, supply, and who can even afford to buy a car. So, what happens when every car gets slapped with an extra $6,000 in costs? Buyers hold back, cars sit longer, and automakers? They slow production. Now, with less production comes fewer shifts, fewer contracts, and fewer jobs. It doesn't take a CEO to do that math. And here's the kicker. Automakers don't just eat those costs. They start looking for ways to cut. And nothing cuts harder than automation. Look, automation isn't evil. It's efficient. But it doesn't care about pensions, paychecks, or putting food on the table. And when car prices surge, labor gets cut, and robots get green lit. So, if you're wondering what happens next, well, the United Auto Workers Union has a lot to say about it. They're pushing for real jobs, real factories, real wages. But can tariffs actually force those changes? Or are workers just waiting in line for promises? Amidst all the chaos, one group was actually cheering, the UAW. To them, these tariffs aren't a threat, they're leverage. A way to finally push automakers to bring back good-paying, union-protected jobs. Here's the thing, getting those jobs back takes time. We're talking months, just to plan. Years to break ground on billion-dollar factories. And no company builds at that scale when the rules keep changing. Automakers aren't just asking for lower costs, they want something even more valuable. Certainty, clear policy, predictable rules, long-term stability, because no one spends billions to build plants on policy quicksand. Meanwhile, the automation clock isn't slowing down. Every delay in building factories? It's just more time for machines to move in instead of workers. And unions? They know it. So right now, workers are waiting. Automakers are stalling. And the longer the uncertainty drags out, the more expensive everything gets. That's next. Why the real cost of this policy might not be the tariffs. It's the chaos they're creating. Right now, automakers are in limbo. They don't know what's exempt, what's delayed, what's permanent, and when no one can plan, the entire system backs up. That uncertainty isn't just annoying, it's expensive. Every hour spent warehousing, rerouting, delaying shipments, that's real money. And automakers are bleeding it. Executives call this soft waste, wasted time, wasted attention. But here's the truth. Every minute spent guessing about tariff policy is a minute not spent building the next electric vehicle, the next battery system, the next competitive edge. And while we debate, China is building, Europe is scaling, everyone else is moving forward. This isn't just a logistics issue, it's a national competitiveness problem. So while American automakers are guessing and waiting, China just passed Japan to become the world's #1 car exporter. You heard that right. So while we've been tariff wrangling, China, they've been building, scaling, and recently they pulled it off. China just became the largest car exporter in the world. That's right, they passed Japan, the longtime king of auto exports. And the momentum, it's not slowing down. So what's behind this surge? Speed, EV dominance, and yes, government strategy. China doesn't wait. They coordinate. They build vertically, export aggressively, and reinvest relentlessly. Look, this isn't about fear, it's about urgency. The global auto game is brutal. It's fast, and it rewards the prepared. In America, we'd better not be the slow one. So, where does this all go? Tariffs might bring back some jobs, but they will also bring higher prices, more automation, and years of disruption. The question isn't if there's impact, it's what kind of impact. If we want to compete globally, we need more than political punches. We need strategy, speed, systems that actually make sense. Because the global auto race, it's not about protection, it's about precision. We need a playbook that rewards adaptability, less red tape, more incentives for innovation, and the courage to build the future, not just protect the past. Because in this race, there's no silver medal. It's fast or forgotten. Build or be left behind. Don't be the slow one. If you made it this far, congrats. You now know more about tariffs than some presidential candidates. This is the Not Financial Advice Show, where we break down money, policy, and power without boring you to death. So if you're into real talk, actual facts, and a healthy dose of, wait, what are they doing with our economy? Hit that subscribe button. Because while politicians are playing 4D chess, we're just trying to make sure your next car doesn't cost $6,400 more, with no cup holders.